All right, so as we just heard, getting the game set up, Brandon taking the initiative, which is going to allow Dennis to take advantage of repositioning for Soontir. So most notably as these rock placements come together, we see no debris whatsoever on the table. Both players using ships that are not inclined to be stressed if they don't need to be. And that's the timer officially kicking off. 75 minutes on the clock here in round 6 as our players get squared off and ready to go. Brandon thus far today having excellent luck positioning those tractor beam tokens and setting Fen Rao in advantageous positions to really capitalize on both the reduction in agility and the repositioning coming from Ketsu. That's really been Brandon's claim to fame thus far today, is coordinating the actions of those two ships very, very well together. And this could potentially be a big problem for Dennis. Both of his heavy hitters are vulnerable to being affected by the tractor beam, especially because Ketsu, while carrying the title, can place those tractor beam tokens without actually scoring a hit. That's very dangerous for hard-to-hit pilots like Soontir. Dennis will have to be particularly careful about his positioning as he moves into combat range against Ketsu. Dials coming down.
Did you remove largest forward? Yes. Okay. Made that mistake last game. Still had it to the rear from the end of my last one. I spent 4 turns. I couldn't get it turned around. It just didn't. Just the timing was wrong. So ended up not quite hurting me as bad as I thought it might, but
So Dennis, in considering his priority targets, is very likely to focus his fire on Ketsu to get things started. We've already seen exactly how deadly a combination of fire from Merrick and from Soontir can be when they rapidly dispatched Eric's Decimator in round 4. That's a lot of potential firepower, and the Lancer is far less durable than the Decimator. So it may very well be Dennis's goal here to get all guns on Ketsu as quickly as possible, take her off the table, and essentially turn the entire game in his favor. Binyare Pilot opening up with a sweep past the asteroid. Meanwhile, Palpatine creeping forward in his shuttle to bump against the rest of his formation. Very common opening for Palpatine ace lists. Ketsu coming out fast, sweeping to the left. May very well try to make a flanking approach against Dennis's fighters if he continues to move to the right side of the table. Fen Rao following suit, staying close to Ketsu. And I think we can say that we may see this certainly throughout the opening approach and exchange of gunfire, with Brandon keeping that Fang fighter in close so that it can capitalize on any tractor beam targets. Opening with a K-turn from Merrick, pulling a bit of a pump fake here with his opening maneuvers. Soontir slowly coming out of his starting position. Both players feeling one another out, although Dennis trying to leave himself in a position where he can more correctly react to this inbound maneuver from Brandon. We return to dials here on turn 2. 68 minutes on the board. Another threat that's potentially easy to overlook, but certainly can't be underestimated, is the feedback array on that Binyare Pirate. Not a terrible threat against things like Mark's K-Wings or something like the Decimator, but when we're talking about very soft targets like Soontir, that Pirate serves as an excellent area denial tool for Brandon to take advantage of. And it should be interesting to see how he uses it throughout this match. Right now, he may be sending it through the central gap in those two rocks ahead of it, in the hopes of persuading Soontir to perhaps continue moving down the left side of the table and into the waiting fire arcs of both Ketsu and Fen Rao. Dennis, to his credit, during the day today, has done an excellent job of creating spontaneous kill boxes, bringing both Merrick and Soontir's guns to bear on targets at the same time, even when maneuvering apart from one another. And that's certainly something that Brandon's going to need to look out for as this game progresses.
Man, not going to go with the turn 2 stall.
The shuttle continuing to motor down the edge of the board. Meanwhile, Brandon continuing his cautious, coordinated approach. The mobile firing arc on the Lancer currently facing forward. And again, Fen Rao using his boost to remain in this nice approach formation. All ships lined up well. Certainly ideally positioned, setting a very dangerous spot for Dennis to attempt to occupy. Merrick now turning into the fight. Barrel rolling clear of the asteroid to set himself up for next turn. And we see Soontir continuing to close range. With Palpatine intact and a stack of tokens, not too much to be concerned about should he remain at range 3. And that may very well be Dennis's plan going into this engagement, is to allow Merrick to close range and keep Soontir dancing at the edge of that tractor beam effect from the Lancer.
Oh, for sure, yeah.
Moving on to turn 3, both players considering their maneuvers. 63 minutes on the clock as we move into turn 3. Brandon attempting to determine what, if either, of Dennis's ships may move into this coordinated formation he's put together. Dennis, meanwhile, having to determine what range is safe for him to approach within. And how far forward that range band may be once Brandon completes his maneuvers. Always needing to be cautious of both the tractor beam effect and just the concentrated fire of these three ships moving together. And dials are on the table. Ready now to start the activations during the movement phase. No, it looks like Brandon reconsidering again, being very meticulous about his maneuver selection. Both players, I believe, recognizing exactly how important the first exchange of fire can be in a game of X-Wing. All right, beginning movement. Binyare Pirate, surprisingly enough, turning off away from the gap in the asteroids. Taking a focus action. Still providing a range 1 band thread of feedback array through the gap in those. The shuttle now beginning to turn in toward the fight. Will be bumping into Merrick on its way, but definitely preparing itself to bring its arc in line with the rest of Brandon's ships. Fen Rao sweeping with a 3 bank. Definitely closing range pretty dramatically there. Tossing caution to the wind, looking for that closer range engagement on any target. Attempting a barrel roll left and forward. Clearing the asteroid. And push for a focus. Fen nicely prepared in both position for this combat phase, as well as getting himself set up to continue combat on the next turn.
Yeah, attempt to boost that way. I think it is too. Do you want to hold the rock and all try it?
Ketsu attempting a boost through the asteroid formation, unable to complete the maneuver. May simply opt to boost forward here.
In that case, we will shift mobile arc.
Mobile arc now shifted to the left side of the ship.
Yep. Alrighty, all you. Yep.
Soontir now banking into the fight, finding himself just on the outer edge of Fen Rao's firing arc. Certainly not going to remain there, especially considering that in his current position he may actually be double arced by Ketsu, which is not a position that any ship would want to find itself in, much less Soontir. Barrel rolling out of range and turtling up with an evade action, getting his focus from his pilot skill. Merrick moving in and occupying roughly the same position. Again, being very cautious about that range band, attempting to avoid any automatic tractor beam action from the Lancer.
We'll start with the caster. It's gonna be range 3 to either one.
Brandon considering his shots. Both obstructed, both range 3, both targets with evade and focus tokens.
Yeah, we'll shoot it, Mark.
Brandon opting to engage Merrick, range 3 with the Lancer.
So that's Shadowcaster on there.
Coming in with 2 hits, re-rolling with Dengar.
So range 3 obstructed. Yep. So 3 for ability, range, obstructed. All the dice.
Dennis coming up with what looks like 1 evade and 1 focus, opting to spend the focus to avoid the 2 hits.
Let's see what Rao's got in this fight. To be clear of debris. So let's go with stay the course.
Fen Rao continuing to fire at Merrick with 3 natural hits, an excellent roll. Merrick with 2 evades, adding the token, once again avoids taking any hits. Palpatine still available.
Yeah, the laser's going to bend at that distance.
Checking arc on Soontir. Looks like no shot for Soontir, at least not on the Lancer. Opting instead for a range 3 shot against the Pirate. Three hits at range 3. Hot dice for both players this evening. 2 evades, 1 hit taken on the shields for the Pirate. Unlike Brandon, Dennis being forced to split fire this turn, unable to put both of his guns on the pirate, opting to engage the Lancer instead at range 3. That is.
You managed to pop die. Wow. I mean, if the judge wants to look at it, but how did I manage? I think I've got a die in the middle of the tray. Yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and call it pop. That's amazing.
That is one crit. Palpatine for an additional crit. Both hits landing solidly on the Lancer, taking 2 shields out of play. And we're headed back to dials to start turn 4. 51 minutes on the clock. With the timid maneuvers leading up to the opening exchange now complete, I think we may see a bit more aggression on the part of Brandon as he attempts to bring all of his guns on a single target at closer range to counteract the effects of those token stacks and of Palpatine. And Dennis, again, having to be very careful about the maneuvers he selects. Range being a critical component of Dennis's game in this round of the tournament. Between the feedback array threat from the Pirate, the incredible range 1 power of Fen Rao and his Fang Fighter, and the automatic tractor beam token assignment possible inside of range 2 from the Lancer. It is very much in Dennis's interest to continue this fight at range 3 as much as possible. Once again, the Pirate bringing his guns around the asteroid formation, effectively blocking that route to Soontir and moving that range 1 denial bubble along with him. The shuttle now officially bringing his guns into the fight. Fen Rao selecting a green maneuver, a 2 bank to the right, attempting to position himself to have perhaps a pick of either target should Soontir continue to move along his current course. A dangerous spot that Brandon has crafted in the range space between both the Pirate and Fen Rao. Fen Rao pushing to acquire target lock after choosing a focus for his action. Taking a lock on Fell. Ketsu moving in for a potential block. Setting up a position where Fen Rao may have guns on no matter what. Opting to change the orientation of the firing arc to the front. This, of course, means that any ship that has the unfortunate circumstance of bumping into the front of Ketsu will find itself receiving a tractor beam token and being pulled off away from the ship, typically to receive a range 1 shot. Good move on Merrick's part to bank away from the kill box he saw forming together. Deftly dodging out of that particular trap before it was sprung.
I don't think it's going to matter. I think it'll be fine. All right, so that was his action. Forward.
And in a similar situation, Suntir seeing the trap coming as well, moving quickly out of the range. However, Suntir finds himself in the unenviable position of being within range 1 of the feedback array. Suntir deciding to bunker up rather than attempt to get out of range 1. Brandon with the first shot, attempting to determine which target he's most likely to have an effect on. Suntir at that range with that many tokens is going to be very difficult to hit. Lancer engaging the shuttle at range 2.
Oh, it's range 2, sorry. It's range 2. It's range 2. This was not my die. This is still just someone else's die. So this one, and then I'm going to dangle. Okay? Alright, so 3 hits.
3 hits delivered against the shuttle. Shuttle coming up blank. Adding a tractor beam token, reducing the shuttle to 0 agility for the round.
Yeah, I think that's going to be range 3. Or range 3, sorry. And did I think you've got 2 on. I've got 2 on Fell. We've got a mountain of tokens on him, though. I'm going to get a die. I might as well try to put damage on the other.
Sounds like Brandon opting to engage the shuttle with Fen Rao as well. That'll continue to give the shuttle 1 die in defense.
Yeah, I just have a focus. I'm debating if I want to spend it or not. The only shot I'll have on you is if I use the shuttle and I'll be a range 3 shot. Yeah. So, I'll go ahead and spend it. More than likely.
Brandon opting to spend the focus. 1 of 8 on the 1 die. Suntir engaging the pirate, likely in the hopes of dispatching it before he can receive a hit from the feedback array. Two hits and a crit. 1 of 8 coming from the pirate. Taking a hit and a crit. Structural damage for the crit. The pirate is still in the game. Will be able to deliver that feedback array on Suntir this round.
Oh, sorry, I shoot next, don't I? I'm not used to this having a shot. No, you're fine. Yeah, I don't think I have. Yeah, you're way out of arc on that one. So you got the range two against Ketsu.
Shuttle choosing a range 2 shot against the Lancer. Coming in with a strong roll. 2 crits and a hit.
All right, two crits.
Already delivering hull damage on Ketsu.
All right, so now the pirate gets to shoot. Oh, I like Mage. So feedback, or you've got a range one shot. You know, on approach, there's no power.
Brandon considering his odds, looking at the pile of tokens currently sitting on Soontir.
Yeah, I think just do that. Okay. So feedback. I'm going to take one damage.
Going with the feedback array, detonating his own pirate in the process, but getting 1 damage on Soontir in the exchange. A worthwhile trade, I think. The pirate largely doing its job, which was to get unmitigatable damage done to aces.
That's Ketsu through. Right.
I'm sure Brandon would have liked to have been able to do that more than once, but even getting 1 damage out of it on a target as hard to hit as Soontir can be worthwhile. Going back to dials for turn 5. 39 minutes on the board. Now the movement game turns more in Dennis's favor. He's escaped the kill box that Brandon created for him largely unscathed, only taking some minor damage against the shuttle. Soontir and Merrick now having the opportunity to rapidly come back into this fight and engage whichever target Dennis decides is worth his time. At this point, a safe assumption that that's going to continue to be Ketsu, who is already taking hull damage, has crits on the table, and certainly represents the greatest threat to Dennis's list at the moment. Again, Brandon carefully considering his maneuver options. Brandon settling on a maneuver.
Okay. I'm good. I'm good. Yeah. Sorry about that. Yes. Cool.
Shuttle banking in, looking for a block here, possibly to lock Ketsu in place, set her up to receive a 4K turn from Merrick.
Fair point. All right. Go for it. Or are you thinking about? Yeah, I'm thinking about damage.
Brandon considering now whether or not to use inertial dampeners this turn.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay.
Choosing to do so, executing a white stop maneuver and taking a stress once the maneuver is complete. Fen Rao bumping into the now stopped Ketsu.
All right. What'd you do?
And, as expected, Merrick coming back around with the 4K. As is often said, the defender's white 4K may be predictable, but if your opponent can't stop it, its predictability is largely irrelevant.
Great shot at Finn, but I also need to put damage. I've got 2 shots at Finn and only 1 at Ketsu. Target lock on Sure.
Merrick opting for a target lock on Fen Rao.
Suitier is just being Suitier. Doing Suitier things. Yep. 2 banking. Yeah, with the Omicron where it was, I had no way to shut down what the 2 banks, so I just didn't bother. Alright, here's that. Sure.
Soontir working his way back around.
That would be silly to leave Suitier without some defenses, so push for focus. Sorry, push for evasion. Yeah. Your 9 shoot first. You got 2 wonderful range 1 shots on the start with the free target lock, or the free tractor beam.
So here at the start of the combat phase, Ketsu dropping a tractor beam on the shuttle. Activating glitter stem.
Yep. Range 1 into the Omicron.
Ketsu attempting to do as much damage as possible. That's a hell of a way to get started. Glitter stem converting those focus results over, making that 4 hits. 2 hull remaining on the shuttle. Ben Rao trying to close the deal. Only getting 1 hit, leaving the shuttle intact.
Yeah, I was counting on you not being there, honestly. Average should have killed you. Oh well. So glitter stem. Yeah, no point in shooting at Ketsu then. So Merrick is going to shoot at Sanctum. Sure. To be a race 3.
Now catching some reprisal fire from Dennis.
3 attack dice.
Merrick attacking range 3.
Going to target lock.
Spending the target lock for the reroll.
I've got a 4 dice range 1 attack coming up, so it'd be nice to leave it for Merrick, but alright, no help. No help. No help.
No Palpatine. 1 hit and 1 evade result on the die. Fen avoids any damage.
Yeah, so that's 2 raw. No shot there. Shuttle on Fen? Yes.
Shuttle attacking Fen Rao, range 1. 1 crit, spending the focus for 2 hits. And Palpatine for an additional crit. So 2 hits and 2 crits. So in the end, Fen Rao taking 1 crit, a blinded pilot. Not what Brandon wanted to see right now. He needs all of those shots to really stay effective in this game. And he's lost those, and he's certainly towing the line on losing Ketsu should she continue to take fire. Moving on now, turn 6, 29 minutes left on the board.
Blinded is clear, you don't be able to attack, right? It's just your next opportunity. Correct.
Brandon weighing his options for Ketsu, attempting to determine where exactly he can go and avoid heavy return fire either from the shuttle or from Merrick so that he can clear that blinded pilot status and try and get a few more shots in. He could potentially attempt to break out with a 3-turn. That should clear the shuttle.
Sure. Man, I'll give you this. You do not play a conventional shuttle. Good job. Got 3 attack dice, might as well use it for 7.
The shuttle getting out of the way, freeing Ketsu to continue her maneuvers. Ketsu operating under the assumption that the shuttle would move, no stop maneuver. Able to complete a maneuver. And Fen Rao kicking the engines on hard with a 5 straight away from Merrick. Brandon trying to come up with an action for Fen to perform, considering what his options are, what ranges may potentially be.
I don't see any rational way that you could possibly get a shot on Finn Rao to start.
And from the mouth of the man himself,
If you do, props to you.
Where the shuttle was going to end up. Pretty sure on the
Yeah, you are. It's all right. It's not going to send you back too bad.
more that way, so it's probably going to be pushing into that.
Merrick bumping into the shuttle.
Title does give him
It does. But it's also a natural maneuver.
clear stress. We're going to push this direction.
Suntir coming back around into the fight, bringing those guns to bear on Ketsu. Ketsu in a tough position here, already being damaged, now facing both guns from Suntir and from Merrick.
Start with Finn Rao real quick. Before any of that happens, tractor beam gets a tractor beam because I've got you in the fight. Finn Rao will put down the blinding fire.
Ketsu attempting
Ketsu will fire the range shot.
to finish off the shuttle here.
Pretty sure I don't have to the shuttle, and I don't have room on me here. Otherwise, I probably would have put the tractor beam on you and done some business. So yeah, shuttle. Should kill you. Should. We'll see. You got it. Yeah, get out of here. Dengar. You want Dengar? Alright, so yeah.
Putting enough fire down to finish off the shuttle. That will take Palpatine out of the game.
Alright, got him out.
Will certainly
Points on this game,
make it more likely
and I got the power pass.
to put some additional fire on Dennis's ships.
We're going to get shoot here first.
Sure. Nice to do, looks like.
Suntir now engaging Ketsu, range 2. A strong and hot roll on the Reds. Coming in with 3 hits. Ketsu managing to avoid all but 1 shot.
Yes. Taking 4 and 3 left. Alright, range 2.
3 hull remaining. A natural crit for Merrick. Crit and a hit.
One crit, so choose 3.
Merrick is now going to do his favorite and go crit sniffing. Digging around.
I like damage engine. Damage engine it is. Yep.
Damaged engine.
Major explosion would have given you a 50-50 shot, basically.
Maybe.
But
I feel like that runs
and then these are
for it.
discarded.
Let's choose one, discard the other two.
There you go. You guys use it.
Alright. Shuttle's gone, so that's it.
And I get to play this game without power. How'd that going? Nice.
Ketsu still just managing to survive yet another turn. Fen Rao now having cleared his blinded pilot crit. We can expect to see him return to the fight this turn. As we go into round 7, 22 minutes left on the board. Maneuvers coming down on the table. Once again, Brandon agonizing over exactly where Ketsu needs to go to get those tractor beam shots and take as much advantage of her firepower as possible before Dennis can shoot her down.
Set. Good. The 9s go first. I know, right?
Ketsu turning away from the fight with a one bank to the right.
Hard times without the hard turns.
Still dragging a pile of stress along behind her.
It's one of those damage engine doesn't sound so bad until you look at your dial and you go,
It's hard. It almost makes me wish you would just smoke me with the major explosion. Probably would have taken it too.
Fen Rao performing a hard turn to the left.
it would have had to have been a direct hit, right?
No. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
I need 2 more.
Oh,
Yeah.
I'm not as dead as I thought I was.
Yeah, that's why I
I'm
went
still
with
dead.
the
But
damage.
yeah. We'll boost in.
And with the boost to come back around, put himself into a firing position. Likely to push for a focus.
And we'll push for the focus.
And there we have it.
So yeah, you were right to take the damage in. I thought I had 1 more damage on me than I did. Maybe it's the beer.
Alright, 2 tiers.
Suntir maintaining pursuit on Ketsu. Opting to bunker up with a pile of tokens.
Oh wow.
I think you can see the 4K.
Yeah, I did. That's what I banked on because the 4K would have
What the heck, just in case you put 10 on the
the 4K would have put you out of arc. That's what I banked on. So yeah, I'm glad I was right.
title gets her bats.
Yes.
And so he's still full shields.
Merrick with a 4 straight.
We're gonna play.
Surprising Brandon.
Okay.
Alright.
Going for a target lock on Fen Rao.
So Fenrau gets to shoot.
Just basically become a lambda shuttle. I have 2 of both. Yep. But you have a stealth device. You focus it there. You don't have to focus there. You got shields. You don't have 2 hull here. You may not have a shot instinct back apart from.
Fen Rao trying to decide who he's going to engage. Working the pros and cons between both Merrick and Suntir.
You get 3 hits.
So you're going to.
Oh, we're shooting. So we're not seeing how, you know.
Man, I forgot you had all the thrusters too. Man, yeah. But live and die by the green dice. I only need to do 2. And I have the target. I'll go with Suntir.
Engaging Suntir.
Alright. Let's do it. So Fen on.
Brandon deciding for the gambler's approach. Choosing to spend the focus.
Alright, so I'm going to spend the token for 1.
Yep, 1 crit.
So 1 crit.
There it is.
The gambling works out stunningly well, resulting in 1 critical delivered to Suntir
Well, who do you have in arc?
in the form of a direct hit.
That was the thing I was not sure about.
I will say, I think at Mark,
Simultaneous fire now coming into effect
Yeah, if you have it.
as Suntir picks his target.
Your range 3 if you do, but what I'm like, yeah, I'm the line along the. You hold my stuff. That's the main thing. Because you're along that line, so he's going to be out. That's where I was.
Fen Rao dodging return simultaneous fire from Soontir. Soontir instead opting for the only target he has against Ketsu. Ketsu definitely in a vulnerable position.
You're good. You got it. You're right. Yeah.
All right, so 2 tier on Ketsu, range 2.
Two crits and a hit on Ketsu. And that'll do it for Ketsu, leaving it down to both heavy jousting ships, Merrick and Fen Rao, to close out this game. A surprising number of casualties that round, with Brandon's gamble on Soontir paying off, courtesy of one crit, making it through Soontir's defense and delivering a direct hit.
The binary pirate went back in time.
And Ketsu getting knocked out by Soontir's dying shots.
Because we have nothing but 4 9s left on the board.
All right, so range 2 from Merrick.
So it is range 2 from him. Oh yeah, that's right. Because I checked from mine. Yes.
And we might not have a better shot, so spend a target loss.
Merrick coming in for 3 hits against Fen Rao. Range 2, auto thrusters turned off,
Old average.
taking 2 hits against the hull. No crits, so thankfully Fen Rao doesn't have to worry about Merrick going and fishing for something debilitating. Well, with Fen having a stress on the table, he's certainly not going to be able to turn around using that nice 2 Talon roll, which normally might be an excellent counter when dealing with what is very likely to be another 4K turn from Merrick. Lacking that option, it may be best for Brandon to just attempt to flee out of range and clear that stress.
And you only have 2 holes.
Moving into turn 8, 13 minutes on the clock.
How many points is steel?
35 with -1 upgrades, 34 but I have 2 on it. So you've destroyed 64 points.
I've destroyed 64.
That's 29 plus 35.
So here we see the players making their current value calculations. Brandon trying to determine if he has the option to just run away.
Cut and run, then. I
You
got
have
it.
the same amount of points, but the initiative is helping.
All right, well. All right, well, if I gotta fight you, I gotta fight you.
Fen Rao moving first, clearing that stress with a 2 turn to the left, getting out in front of Merrick's flight path. Once again, I think everyone fully anticipating another 4K turn from Merrick. Fen Rao with the barrel roll, attempting to capitalize on that, resulting in at least a bump.
You anticipate me doing what I did to prevent you from doing what you did.
Exactly, Brandon.
You did. Good on you.
Up. Merrick not going for the 4K, sensing that it was very possible that Fen Rao could line up a good shot on him.
The X7 to do a one bang. That always gets you. That's all right. I got 4 dice and a token.
Merrick delivering 3 hits, spending the target lock
You don't get the token because I'm not in your arm.
for a crit.
No, but I get the 4th die.
You get 4 dice.
Yeah.
Oh, and sorry, you have the tokens.
Yeah.
Sorry, I was thinking your type.
Good game. All right. I'll take a crit.
And that'll do it. Good game to both Brandon and Dennis, who has once again
Good
won with his modified Palpatine aces here in round 6. An excellent game all in all, most notably on that incredible gamble move by Brandon, opting to fire at Soontir Fell, range 3, through a token bunker, no heavy modification on his part, delivering a critical hit, which resulted in a direct hit, knocking Soontir off the table. Hell of a game. Thank you all for joining us. This is the last round of the night. We will be making the cut determinations. We will post an update, the list of our top cut players. And do please join us again tomorrow morning, where you will be able to see the top 16 play out their elimination matches until we reach the last man standing in the Central Texas 2016 and a half X-Wing Miniatures Regionals, right here at Mage's Sanctum in South Austin. Thanks, everybody. Stay tuned for that list of the top 16, and we will talk to you tomorrow.